also take a look at, we get a lot of translations and scales, and also new things start appearing here, poly, mirror, and all that. So this is called history. Now this history is not good for modeling. Now you can keep it for like 1 or 2 nodes here, which is okay. So what most of the time is better if you clear these out. And also your model's default position should be always like 0, 0, 0 and 1, 1, 1. Now what you can change that here, if you change it, it's going to go back to the cube shape. So how do we solve that? So now to solve that, we have in Maya this functionality called freeze transformation. What that does, that reset all these position back to the default, like default values, which means 0, 0 and 1, without changing their position. So I'm going to grab this one and go under modify freeze transformation, and you can do multiple objects at once. You can grab onto all of them and then modify freeze transformation. Now see what happens. When I select each object, everything is reset back to 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. That's how all these objects should be. Now going down here in the inputs, there are history build up. It's showing you something, you created a cube, then you change something in the transform. On this one, it shows you it's mirrored and this. How do you clear this history? So to clear history, you select all the objects you wanted to clear history, then go under edit, delete by type, history. See, that cleans those up. Next thing we wanted to look into is combining and separating an object. Now when we mirror this, so it automatically gives us both sides of the plank here, like over here and here as well. But these are considered as a single object. Now take a look at how many objects we have from 1 to 7, although there are 2 pieces here. So it doesn't matter how many pieces are there, it only counts as 1 if they're combined. So now that's what we're going to be looking at. Now if I wanted to make this entire thing as a single object, I can select onto all of these and then go under the modeling tab and mesh and combine. Now just by doing combining, I got this single piece here, but along with this, see, there are a lot of other things showed up in the outliner here. So I'm going to remove that by deleting history. So if I select it, edit, delete by type, history, and that's gonna remove all those extra history and going to leave us with a single object. So by selecting it, mesh, next to combine, there's a separate option. If I click on that, now each piece are back on their own. I can hit W to move to the move tool, and you can see here each piece, we can move them individually. One thing to notice now, since we did combine and separation, all their pivot point comes at the center of the grid. Okay, this happens when you combine and separate. By selecting an object, if I go under modify center pivot, it's going to automatically move its pivot to the center of that selected object. Center pivot. Here we go. It's back right there. And same way, you can also do multiple object selection and do modify center pivot. Select everything and delete by type history. That will clear out any history in there. Now when I separate them out, so what it did in the outliner, it automatically put all those into its own group right in here. Now by default, you probably see only one object here, but it's a group. You see that icon a little bit? That's the group icon. When I hit that plus sign, all these individual objects are in there. You can pull them out if you want to get rid of that group over there. How do you do that? So you can select first one, and instead of control selecting each from the outliner, you can also select by selecting one, hold shift and click on the last one. That's going to automatically grab everything in between those two. And then I'm going to go under edit and click on unparent, and that's going to remove these out of that group. Now see, that group is outside, and here now I can select this empty group and delete it and delete. Now all the objects are there. Now same thing, notice it's not called now cube anymore, it's called polysurface. That's what happens when you combine and separate objects again. We can also name these individual objects. To name these objects, all you have to do is select it and then go right into the channel box and double click on the top here where it says polysurface. So then name what you want. Like for example, this is the left side. So I'm going to call this one left plank. and then same way on this side. Now second way, you can also name it from the outliner itself. So go to that piece and double click on it, left click, and I'm going to call this one right blank. Same way you can name each and every part if you wanted to. Now after naming, the next thing is the display layers. Now how to use this display layer? For display layer, you can select an object. It could be one or more, whatever you select. Let's say select all these entire railing, and then you can go under layer, create layer from selected. Now what that's going to do, that's going to put all those selection onto this layer. Now it's called layer 1 by default, but you can name it by double left clicking on it and then click here and call this one, maybe let's say I'm going to call it railing underscore LYR. LYR is the naming extension. Now this, I like to do it personally, but it's up to you. But definitely name something so that you know what's on this layer. Now what this layer does, it allows you to control the visibility on and off, and you can also control visibility from here as well. Now you can see here, if I turn off the visibility, it turns off, but then this layer won't do anything because we just turned that object off by itself. So leaving this visibility on will give control over to the layer where we can turn it on and off. And now the next thing, I'm going to deselect all these. The next one is P. P stands for playable, that's for animation side. Now let's look at the third one. This is a toggle. So there are 4 different functionality here. If there's nothing in the column in here, that means it's in the normal mode. Means you can select it like irregular object. If you click on it once, then it's T. T means template, mean everything you can see, but in a wireframe like this, what you want to be able to select them. If you click on it again, it's a R. It's still locked. R means reference mode, and that means you can still see it, but you want to be able to select it. The next one is back to the normal mode. In normal mode, you can do any operation you want, but it's going to be still on the layer. Okay, so that was all how to use the display layer.